Corporation. And this is our first introductory webinar for our VectorLam Cirrus 2.0 software that's based on the web. So hopefully everything goes smoothly and we don't have any hiccups, but we'll find out. This is the first one that we had. So I thank you all for taking time out of your day. We'll spend about 60 minutes going through some of the introductory information for VectorLam. As most of you have already signed up, I will just gloss over the registering process and get right into using the software and looking at some different things. If you're familiar with the old Excel-based VectorLam software, that's a little bit different. This webinar is here to help you to make the most out of the software. So as most of you hopefully can see on the screen, this is the welcome screen. You can get to it through our website, vectorply.com, or you can go up here to this vectorlamcirrus.cloudapp.net, and you should get this welcome screen. If you haven't registered before, you can go to this register link and fill out all the information. Hit the register button. It will send you an email to the email address that you filled in, and from there you can make sure that your username and password are accepted, and then come back to the screen and log in. And what I'll do is I'll log into my user account. Oops. Let me make sure I get the right password. I'll log in, and this is what everyone should be able to see. Is your main screen here, your home screen. You'll have whatever message that we have from Team Vectorply up here. As you can see, we just have our canned slogan. Also, our sales contacts should be for each region. Myself being out of Phoenix City, Alabama, this is Jordan Har, who is our Southeast Regional Sales Manager. His email and contact information are here. In terms of accounting tools, if for some reason you need to change your password or your email, there are two sections here for you to do so. If there are any issues with not remembering your username or password, feel free to email us at either solutions@vectorply.com or webinars@vectorply.com. And with that reminds me, with the amount of content I want to go through here in this hour, we may not have a good stopping point for questions. So if anybody does have any questions, whether it be for this webinar or using the software for your own particular use, please feel free to email us at webinars@vectorply.com, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as we can. Now let's get started. In this user profile I have for myself, I've got what we have up here in my projects are 5 different projects that I've already had started. How do we start this? We go to, this will always be here, this add new feature. So when you just log on and you want to add a new project, you just go to this section here. Once you have a fully loaded suite of projects, there will be different pages down here that you can select through. You can also do a search. You can come here and type whatever you want. I know one of my projects has carbon in it. I can go and search, and it'll bring up that exact project. But that's if you have obviously more than 5 or 6. I can't remember the exact amount per page, but there is a finite amount, and after that you'll go into subsequent pages. So let's start with adding a project. Okay, so once you hit that button, you get the project screen, and I'm going to name this my webinar project. And one of the things you can do here is you can make this project private. This would be any sort of administrators wouldn't be able to get in or look at anything. One of the good features of this program is the connectivity, both between the administrators, which would be anybody here at Vectorply, or any other users that that you would like to share your projects with. This is a feature you can turn on and off, but we'll just turn it on for now, and then I'll show you what it means later on when we're in the actual project screen. So I'm going to start this project. I hit OK. You see here what it does is it just adds it to the queue. So we have webinar project here. So what I'm going to do is click on here, and it's going to bring me to the main project creation page. So this will always start out when you have a new project. So what I'm going to do here is create our first laminate. And what I'm going to do here in the interest of mainly the marine industry is just start out with the whole laminate one. And I'll hit add. And this brings us to our main working screen here, or project screen. This is where you create your laminates, do all your manipulation of the particular laminates, put in your costing, anything else that you want to do. So now that we've created this laminate, our current laminate is this whole laminate 1. So from here we'll add our layers, change up our resin systems, whatever we have. What you have right here to the right of the laminate drop-down menu is the resins. What we've got here are 5 fairly basic resin systems that are available to everybody. Very similar to the Excel-based program. What I'm going to do here is just change this to vinyl ester. It'll take a second for it to load. And there you see we are at vinyl ester. And you can change this if you've already got all your laminates or all your different plies added. You can change that at that time. I prefer to do it at the outset just to make sure that that I don't have any that I don't forget about it, basically. What we're going to do here is I'm going to start adding some different layers. So what I do here is I go to this Add New feature that's right here, and it brings up our Add a Material page. And here you can search for a different material. This is much more powerful than what we had on the Excel version. You can search by type of architecture, manufacturer, fiber type, aerial weight ranges. This is in ounces per square yard. So we've got 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30. If there's material that it has matte or not. Myself, I like to use just the enter name search material because it's much quicker. So let's say for the first layer I want to put an 1.5 ounce chop layer on. So I'm just going to put 1.5, put a space an ounce, and hit enter. And you see there's my chop matte layer. You can just put 1.5, but there's other materials that'll enter here. Obviously, we have a strain limiter. Here's a core material that has 1.5 in it. A couple different Eric's cores. But to make it a little bit more directed towards what I'm searching for, I just put the space and then the OZ. So what I'm going to do here is I have it highlighted, and then I hit the add, and you'll see in the background that it's added my 1.5 ounce chop. Now I'm going to be putting in a couple just base knit layers. First are EBXM 2408. So I'm just going to search for 2408, hit enter. And you see here we've got both our ELTM 2408, EBXM 2408, both in standard hand laminated form and also in infused. We'll see later where you can go through and make your own materials. Everything that we're pulling out of here, it comes from a global material database that we manage. But each user can go through and make changes and add it to their own materials database. And all that database is your own and only accessed by yourself, or you can have it accessed to other people if you wish to. But in this case, I'm going to use just the stock 2408, and I'm actually going to add 2 layers. The one's there, and I hit add again. So I've got 2 layers of 2408. And let's say I want to add some 090 materials, like a 4410. So I'm just going to search here. Here I've got 2 that match for 4410. So I want to put, say, 3 layers here. And I just hit this 3 times. And there I have all my layers that are in this laminate, and I'm good, so I hit close. And from here, now we look at our main laminate here, and now we determine how we want to manipulate things. Now I've got all the layers here that I want, but they're not necessarily in the right order that I want to have them, and that's where we get to this this current laminate screen, and basically these three little options that are on the far right. Now this, well, before I get into that, what I'm going to do, which is an interesting thing, is show you how to swap layers. It's fairly simple. Now let's say I wanted these three layers of 4410 to be in between these two layers of 2408. All I have to do is left-hand click on this 2408 and drag it down, release the left button, and I have it there. Now, in order to make sure that the program has taken this into account, we have our calculate button. In order to make things a little bit faster in terms of adding materials and manipulating them, we added this to allow that to be much quicker, and then once we have everything set, we hit our calculate button and it saves everything to the program. So I'm just going to do that here. Hit the calculate button just so it recognizes that I did that change. Otherwise, if you don't hit the calculate button, you do too many different operations, it may not record that, and you may actually have some layers that are flipped in areas you don't want to. So just take that under consideration. And now we'll go to the edit layer sections, which are these buttons over here, and for each layer you can hit this little pen, which is our edit layer. What I'm going to do is just click these for these last 5 layers, and from here you can change your fiber weight or your mass fraction of your layers, your fiber volume. These two are actually coupled together depending on what resin system you use. Typically the materials are on a fiber volume basis, so the resin is sort of decoupled from you know, the fiber or the fabric materials that you're using, so you have to take that into account, and we'll see that when we're making our own materials. But you can also change the orientation. Typically for all materials, you will have like the EDX M2408. The layer setup is a plus 45, minus 45, and then matte layer. You may not necessarily lay that down on top of a skin coat that way. You would have the matte first and then the 45 layers. So if that's the case, I just changed this to down. Same thing with the 4410s. You'd most likely have the chop down. So what I want to do is just change these to down. And if you want to rotate these layers, typically right now all of these are at the 0 orientation, but if for some reason you wanted to change, say, your 2408 by 45 degrees, you could change that here. You could just add 45. If you have your fiber cost in dollar per pound, you can add that here as well. Now, all the costing that's put in here is per the project and won't save over to the material itself. When you start making your own materials and manipulating those, you can add in cost in that scenario, and then every time you search for that material and add it to your laminate, that cost will come up. So what I'm going to do is just save all of these basically where I want them to be. And if it gets down to the point where this becomes too cumbersome of doing up and down, you can actually go in and you make your own material, actually have it down and have that as a custom material and not have to go through this if you don't want. The next little gray icon that we have here is actually known as our copy material. This is the main way of creating custom materials. What this does is it takes this, whatever material you have, and it basically copies it for you. You hit this button and it'll ask you if you really want to create this material. If you hit OK, we'll go to the My Materials page. We'll go back to that at a later time. I just wanted to show this functionality. I'm just going to cancel it for now. And then we also have this third area is our delete layer. Let's say we actually only wanted 3 4410s. Our thickness is a little bit thicker than we wanted, so let's say I wanted to delete this one layer. So I just hit delete. Are you sure you want to delete that layer? And you hit OK. And it brings it up to where you just have 2 layers. And what I'll do is I'll just hit calculate here just to make sure that everything is done correctly. And now that we've done that, just a quick note on costing. Now all this costing that we'll put in here is per project. If you wanted to add cost for your resin, just go to this little pen icon here and add it in dollar per pound. Let's just say it's $1.25. I hit save. This saves this resin for this current laminate. The resin cost for each laminate will be separate, so you have to take that into account when doing multiple laminates that may have the same resin cost. You can also go in here and I'm going to do this now for each layer. Just put in fiber cost and dollar per pound. I'm just going to put in, these are by no means actual costs. I'm just going to put in some base dollar per pound cost for each of these. You make this one a little bit different just because it's a different material. And save each layer. And so we have it here. I do see I do have a question. Is it possible to direct laminate or lamina properties instead of fiber resin combinations? Yes, it is, and I'll show you exactly where that is. Right now, we do have it set to where only we can change the fiber properties, but we'll get into that in a little bit when we go into more of the custom properties. Okay, so now I have my whole laminate 1 the way I want it. If I wanted to add a second laminate, say we wanted to compare this to a cord laminate, I go over here to the right-hand side where we've got add and delete. I hit add, and at this point I get a chance to name my new laminate. So I'm going to name this bottom laminate 1 cord. And then I hit the add button, and what it does is it brings me to an empty screen, and from here I'm going to make my here, let me close this down. First, I want to make sure that I go to vinyl ester. Let it roll over. Now, one thing is, whenever you make a change on a laminate, and I know it's kind of a pain on our end, if you've got multiple materials in here and you do a change that drastically or hit the calculate button, it brings you back to the first laminate. So just take that under advisement. You can go to this drop down and just go back to your cord laminate. It is something we're gonna work on the next iteration here, so that that doesn't happen. But for now, it's just a small quirk of the new system. Now for add laminate, I'm going to make this one a little bit different. I'm going to use probably a 2-ounce chop mat. Add this layer. Let's see, I want to probably put another 2408 in, do my search. Let's say I want to put 2 layers of 4410 in there. Hit enter, there's my 4410. Put my 2 layers in. And for my core, let's say I want to use some Divinycell H130. Do a search for that. And what I've got here for H130 is 1/2 inch and 1 inch. Now let's say for some reason I wanted to use 30 millimeter. Now this is where we get into making custom materials. So what I'm going to do here first, I'm just going to use the 1/2 inch, and I'm going to hit add. And then I close out, and then you see we've got our laminates here. Now you can grab this laminate and put it where or this core material and put it where you want to. But for right now, I know I'm going to be changing this, so I'm just going to leave it here. And what I'm going to do is go over to this copy material. Am I sure I want to proceed? I say yes. And what this does is it brings us to the manage this material page. This has all the same data. If you're familiar with the Excel version, if you open up a material in a material database, it has all the different layers, what the area weights are, volume fractions, what have you. For here, it's similar, but they're all kind of closed down. Here are the different 5 layers you can open up and close, and it's got most of the data that's in there. Most of the properties are going to be unchangeable, at least to the main user. It is possible to have these changed in certain applications, but you'd have to contact us for that. But it is definitely possible. So let's say we wanted to have this 1/2 inch and actually change it to 30 millimeter. Well, first thing I'm going to do is go in and just change the name, both the material name and the material long name, just to be consistent. If you have any sort of description, anything you want to add, you can place it here. These are just scripts for you to have for each material, different comments. You can come down here and change what the composition type, material type is, what the weight range is, who the manufacturer, what type of architecture it is, but since this is core, I'm going to stick with that. Here you can also change, we can change thickness this way as well, but this section up here is basically just showing what's done in the layer sections down below, so you can't necessarily change it here. But what you can do up here is add your cost. You can do it in dollar per pound. Since this is a core, it's typically more in dollar per square foot. So what I'm going to do here is just probably, I have no idea if this is close or not. I'm just going to put $4.50 in dollar per square foot. Now again, if you're familiar with the old Excel version, the core materials are typically on layer, I believe layer 5. Let me open that up. You'll know that this layer is populated because it has apply weight here. Some of these other layers, where they've got some data in it, the apply weight is 0. So basically all these top 4 layers have this apply weight as 0. It's this last layer that actually has the core. So it's got the core, the angle is obviously it's isotropic, and then we've got apply weight. Now this is in ounces per square yard, so this is kind of strange for a core material. So what you do is go to this drop down, and you've got the other ways of looking at it. You can look at it in grams per square meter, ounces per square foot. Obviously, this is a core. You can either look at it in inch thick or millimeter thick. Since we want this at 30 millimeters, I'm going to go to that. And what I do is I come in here and I change this to 30. And now what this should have done is change this top section up here. Well, 29.92. There is a little bit of rounding that's done in here. If you really want to, you can play with it and make sure it's correct. But for this case, I think it's good enough for what we need to use. Everything is where we want it. So what I do is I hit the save button. And now that's saved into my materials. And we can go back to our project. And what we do here is go to our core laminate, go to our add new. This time when we put in H130, we've got our 30 millimeter version here. What I do is I hit add, I hit close. Now this 1/2 inch version is still here, so we do need to delete that out. Hit OK. And there's our 30 millimeter material, and I want to place this in between those two, and I'm just going to hit calculate. And one thing is the more and more laminates you have in here, sometimes the program can be a little cumbersome. Typically, it's not too bad by any means. But there's our second laminate. Where this material is, it's no longer in the global database. It's in your own material database. And if you go up to this little gear up here in the corner where you can go to home or you can log out, there's this My Materials list. You can go in here. And as you can see, I've got a lot of different materials from the different projects that I did. But you can see here's the Venezuela H130 30 millimeters. So I can go into it and make changes to it if I want, do different things. I can save or I can copy this as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back home, go back to my webinar project. And we do have both laminates now loaded in. So what I'm going to do now is go through the laminate comparison table, which is this lower section, which has all the different properties. If you can see down here is the select laminates to compare page. Only this whole laminate 1 is highlighted, and that's the only data that's here. You can select all, and it's got both laminates here in the comparison table. You can clear them and obviously have nothing, or you can go in and just select them as you wish. One of the cool things with this is you can go up to the laminate number and you can click and drag them where you want. Change up the different order. If you've got several different laminates and you want different orders to compare them for thickness or stiffness or weight, this is a really nice property to have. And next, I will show what we have for our base data. This is the comparison table that will always be present. You can obviously grab some of these as well and change them up in how they're ordered wherever you want to, just like you could with the layers. Nothing changes. It's just the different order of where the properties are. If you're looking for a specific property, you can go up to this Add Property drop-down, and it's got many different properties. All of these are the same properties that were available in the Excel version. For some reason we wanted to add a laminate cost. We go down here, hit laminate cost, and we see that's available in $ per square foot on the bottom layer. So another key feature is for the top breakdown of the laminate itself. Obviously this has whole laminate 1 that we have here. If you just click on the laminate number, you can actually switch between these. So this is a nice little feature as opposed to going up and doing the drop-down menu. You can click between the two. Obviously, if you have more laminates, you can do the same. So that's a nice little feature. If you wanted to have these in different units, you can go to metric and hit the calculate button. Actually, I think if we go to metric, it'll probably just do it itself. We've got our different metric units over here. Obviously, you can see everything is changed up. I'm going to just go back to US units because I'm a little more comfortable in those. And from here, with our laminate comparison table, there's a lot of different things you can do. We've got 3 buttons up here that help you to look at different properties, compare different properties. The first is this comparison button. What this is going to do is pull these main laminate properties, basically everything that's in the comparison table, and list it out in a form where you can put it in Excel or a TIFF file or PDF. So I'm going to hit the comparison button. And it's going to take everything that was on that laminate comparison page. What we have here are the 2 laminates that we had selected, broken out in terms of everything that was on the top table. And then we also have more of our laminate comparison table down below here. Now, obviously, if we had 3 or 4 more laminates, we can have those listed here, and this would drop down subsequently. And if we had that, we'd most likely have more than 1 page. Now, from this page, you can go up to this little save and arrow glyph up here and do a bunch of, and basically export it to a bunch of different commands. You can export it to a PDF, Excel, which is one of my favorites, a TIFF file, or Word. Let's just export this to Excel. And since I'm in Google Chrome, this is where it's located. It's just named Laminate Comparison. It's downloaded, so I'm going to open it. I just hit enable editing, and all that information is in an Excel file, and you can do whatever you want to with it here. It just basically took all the information and loaded it in Excel. And drop back out of here. The next button is our graph button. Now this is a little bit different. It's more of a subset of the comparison table. And what we have here are these little check boxes by the different properties that are on the left-hand side. And right now we've got flexural stiffness selected. What I'm going to do is I'm also going to select ultimate bending moment on this side. And basically what graph will do, we'll take whatever's selected over here and graph it for comparison. Very similar to the comparison page, but it's a little bit more direct. So what we have here are the 4 properties that we have selected, the 2 laminates, and then graphically representing them. Obviously, the The flexural stiffness of the cord material or the cord laminate is much higher than the others, so you don't get a whole lot of information for the bending moment. So what we can do is we can go back, take these two off if we want. And let's just say we wanted to put in ultimate tensile stress, just for comparison. We hit graph, and this is, we still have the same issue, but you can see the differences that you can do here. And again, this you can export into a PDF, Excel, TIFF file, what have you. So there's a lot of different ways you can manipulate the data. And if you really wanted to, you can come up here and add as many of these properties as you want, graph them if you will, if you want to on the for the graph function. Another button we have over here is our ABD matrix. This is if you're doing any laminate analysis and need to know stiffness matrices. This will do this for the two laminates we have here. Obviously, very a lot of information that's loaded in here. So that's we can go into that in greater detail in later webinars, but just note that information is there. Now to go back to the private setting, if you notice on this laminate, I have this because we denoted this as private to begin with. This checkbox is clicked here, and as you notice up here at the very top, we have delete and our calculate button and version and report, and we'll go through these a little bit later. But let's say you wanted to, you had these this project and you wanted to share it with another user, whether it be somebody in your own company or with Vectorply. What you can do is unclick this private button, and it adds this share and send button. Both of these different buttons. The send button will basically send the share button itself, what it will do is, if we just hit share, you enter the username, so you obviously need to know who it is that has an account on the VectorLam Cirrus 2.0. Enter in that username, search, and when that person comes up, let's say I wanted to send it to my other account, which is just T. Gunberg. I hit search, and that's where I am. I click that and hit share, and what that will do is it's shared with myself, my other account, and you hit done. And what this will do is you can go back to the share button, and it'll actually show who you shared it with. Now what this does is it doesn't give them control to make any changes, but it does allow them to look at your laminates and look at what you've done, but not necessarily have any control. To do that, we have our send feature. Now this basically what it does is takes your project and sends it to somebody. So it's very similar. Hit send, you find their username and do everything very similar to that. But what that does is give that person the ability to go in and add information, whether it be cost, whether it be manipulating some laminates, adding some laminates, different things like that. So it's very interesting, new applications for VectorLam. All right. Now next, now that we've got these laminates, we've got our two laminates we want. What do we do next in terms of manipulating the data? If you're familiar with the old Excel version, we had different sheets, whether they be beams or plates or some of the DNV and ISO rules for marine craft. Those are loaded in here. It's a little bit different. It's actually in our what we call our report feature. But right next to it, actually, something I almost forgot is our version. Let me just touch on this really quick. What this version, what it means is basically if you have revisions you want to do to a certain report, you can do them here. Basically, if you add a version, what this does is it copies over your project into a second version, so you don't have to go through and add all the different laminates. And you can make changes to that, and then you can toggle between the two versions if there are any differences you want to check. And then obviously if you can add new version, or you can delete it. So it's an interesting new addition as well. We won't go through it in detail, but that is there if you wish to use it. But the big one here is our report button. And what this will do is bring us to our report page. Now, if you see here, we've got our different pages that we used to have in the Excel version, but they're now all on one page. So we've got our beam configurations, our plate configuration, D&V high-speed craft configuration, and then we have our ISO 12215 and Annex H configurations. We are currently working on the ISO 12215 stringer configuration as well. Hopefully we'll have that available for everybody soon. But what I really wanted to go through here first is the beam configuration and plate configuration. So now that we've got these two laminates in place, let's say we wanted to look at the first laminate in terms of it being a box beam. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to change my report name to box beam. And what we have here on the left-hand side is how we control our different configurations of beams. So we can have several different beams in here with different laminate schedules, whatever we want. So I'm just going to call this box beam configuration 1. Now, whenever you make a change over here, you'll see this box here actually lights up. This basically means this beam configuration hasn't been saved yet. We'll go through and save it once we get all of our information done. First thing to go through is end condition. You can go through a cantilever, partially fixed, or simple supported beam. I'm going to go with a simple support. Beam type, you can do a T-beam, just one layer and one shear web. You can do an I-beam, or you can do a box beam. I think in this case I'll do a box. You have load type here. You can do a distributed load or a point load. Just do a point load. You notice with that some of these selections have changed. So beam unsupported length in inches, I'm just going to go 24 inches. Point load, let's just say we're at 75 pounds. Point load from fixed end, this basically means how far into this 24 inches is that point load. We'll do it right in the center, so at 12. How tall is our beam going to be? I'll say it's 4 inches tall. And what is our cap width? Now for the box beam, we don't have a difference in cap width and bottom width, at least at this time, so they both have to be the same. In this case, I'll just say it's 5 inches. Now on the right-hand side here, we've got our selections for our cap laminates. We click on here, we've got our whole laminate 1 and our chord laminate. Now I would strongly recommend not using a chord laminate in the original VectorLam and in this VectorLam. Whenever you put a core in the main project page, it's not necessarily looking at everything correctly in terms of if there's any shear deflection, shear deformation in the core. It's not necessarily a looking at true sandwich theory. And typically for a beam, you're not going to be using a whole lot of core in it anyway. You're using the section of the beam itself to gain stiffness. So I would strongly encourage everyone to stick to single skin laminates or materials without very thick cores, sandwich laminates basically. So what I'm going to do here is for my top cap, just go with whole laminate 1. Same with our web. Same with our bottom laminate. And then I'm going to go over here and do our save beam configuration. Now that's saved up here in box beam configuration 1. Now let's say I wanted to do a configuration 2 and just do some things a little bit differently. Notice most of this information is still in here, but let's say I wanted to change this to 36 inches and then put this point load at 18, and then I save this beam configuration. Or no, wait, actually I just changed it. That was my problem. I had to add beam. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to redo that. Forgot about that. So I'm going to go back to 12, save my beam configuration. Whatever, it was highlighted, I didn't realize that. I had to go back to add beam. So what this does is everything goes back to the original information. So I just go back to box beam configuration 2, put in my end conditions that I want, beam type, my load type. This is where I change up my data. Point load is 75 pounds. 18 for the center, 4 and 5, and then I select my same laminates here. Then I save this beam configuration. And then if you see here, you can toggle between the two, make any changes that you want. Obviously, you can add much more than two configurations, but for this this introductory webinar, we'll just stick with these two just to show you the differences between the two. Now, next is to actually view our beam report. Just as a quick note here, we can change the unit of measure. Now, this is mainly for the beam report itself. You can go between US and metric. It doesn't, at least at this time, change the types of units that you can use entering it. So right now, it's still in US units, but you can change it to view the report in metric. What we'll do here is we'll go to beam report. And what you see here is we do have just some small schematics, just like we did in the Excel version of our box beam, our I-beam, and our T-beam. And everything that we have down here is all the information we entered in, what our laminates were, weight determination per unit length, so pounds per feet in this case, our deflections, deflection ratios, obviously fairly small given the small amount of weight over those spans. Our different bending moments, our safety factors, both in buckling and in moment at point load and web shear. So all this information, just like the other configuration and graph tabs, you can export to PDF or Excel or to Word. So very similar to that. Now let's say we wanted to look at a plate configuration. Now one of the things I'm going to do here, as I mentioned before with the beam configuration, using a cord laminate isn't necessarily the best thing to do because you're not taking into account shear deformation in that format. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go hit back. I'm back in my webinar project. You can either hit back if you're on the report page, or you can go the drop down, go to home, and then go back to your project. I'm going to add a couple laminates here. I'm going to put add top skin 1. This brings me to my top skin 1. I'm going to just put in, let's say, a couple 1808 layers. I'm going to hit add. So just 2 layers, and these are, the way they're set up is 090 matte, 090 matte. That's the way I want them, so I'm not going to go in and change their up, down, or the rotation. If I roll down here, I can look at top skin 1. There's my data for it. We can go back and forth between those laminates. So that's my top skin, and now I want to add my bottom skin. Let's say for here I wanted to add, let's just say some 2408 090s. So this is our ELTM 2408, so I'm going to add both of those. Hit close, and let's say I want to flip these over so the mats are up. And since I haven't done it for a little while, I hit the calculate button. And then obviously we're back to our whole laminate 1, but I want to go through and make sure my top skin's fine, the way I wanted it. Bottom skin is fine. I might as well call this 1 as I called the other one 1. And let's say I just want to look at both of those skins. The top skin 1 is about 95 thousandths, bottom skin 1 is about 112 thousandths. Now let's say for this bottom skin 1, I wanted to change the fiber volume, but I wanted to keep it that way all the time. So what I'm going to do is for this 2408, I'm going to copy it. And this is the material the way it's set now. You see the average fiber volume right now is about about 0.3. Let's say I want to make that a little bit thicker. Let's say I don't get that much in terms of fiber volume, so I'm going to change it. What I'm going to do is change the name to, let's say, 18%. I'm just going to put FVF just so I know what it is. I'm going to do the same thing over here. And then in comments, I'm going to say changed fiber volume fraction to 18%. Now obviously I can't do that right here, so what I have to do is I have to find the layers that match up. Since this is a 090, there's my first layer, my 0 layer. There's my layer 3, which has my 90 layer. And then, oh yeah, that's right, I've got mat in here. So that's obviously a little bit different fiber volume fraction. But let's say I wanted to keep them all together right at 18. Now this may be this may not necessarily be practical. It may be a little bit resin rich, but for the purposes of showing you what you can do in here, I think it makes sense. So right now this layer 1, this E-glass, the top layer, 12.2 ounces, is set at about 37% fiber volume, which in standard polyester, vinyl ester is about 55 to 60% by weight. So say I want to change that to 18. And with this program, putting in percentages, it's actual point and then what your percentage is. So please keep that in mind. So I changed that to 18. Excuse me. I'll change this one to 18. And this one was already at 19.5. I'm going to change it to 18 anyway. So I changed all 3 of those. I hit save. If we look here, our average fiber volume now is at 18. So I've saved that. I go back to my project. Now I go back to my hull bottom skin 1. Let's say I want to change out these 2400s or 2408s. I bring these up, and there's my 18% fiber volume fraction. So I'm going to add both of these in. Close it out. Delete these 2. And then I need to flip these where I wanted them. And then hit calculate. Then I go back to my bottom skin 1, and it's exactly the way I want it. I can make sure that 18% fiber volume, the weight fraction, in this case it's a polyester resin, is about 32% by mass fraction. So now that I have these 2 skin laminates, the top and bottom, I'm going to go and make a plate, make a sandwich plate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my report page. My beams are still here. Here's my plate configuration. I'm going to change up my name. Plate report. Now for my plate configuration 1, I'll probably call this my, let's call it 1-inch core plate. Now here's where you enter in your edge supports, your plate dimensions. For this I'm going to go with a simple edge support. Let's say a plate width of 24 inches by say 36 inches in length. You enter in your design pressure. For here I'll probably go 3 psi. You can set your deflection limit type, whether it's the span, which would correlate with your width, or you can do it through your thickness. I'll do span here, and I want it to deflect, let's say, no more than 1%. And here is where you start entering in what laminates you have in your database. So you have your compression face laminate. Since I've got a design pressure of 3, that's going to be my top skin. So I go down here and add my top skin. Tension face laminate will be my bottom skin. And here is where we enter in the core material information. Now this is very similar to what we had in the Excel version in terms of types of materials. We do have some knockdown factors on these core materials, basically to work more with the D&V and ISO pages, but they are definitely relevant for plate configurations as well. So let's say I wanted to use some Eric's 775, which is their 5-pound foam, and since I put this in that 1-inch core plate, I'm going to put it in at 1 inch. So I'm going to save this configuration. And then let's compare it to another plate. I'm going to call this one my 1.5-inch core plate. And add in my information. Let me see here. 3, deflection type. We'll keep everything everything the same as the other one. Go with my core material, the 7075. But here for core thickness, I'm going to go 1.5 inches. Now I save this blade. And again, just like with the beam report, you can toggle between the two and make sure that everything is correct. You can change your unit of measure here from US to metric if you want for the plate report. Again, just like the beam, you go to your plate report here. And it pulls up everything else that you wanted, your plate information, what your deflection limits are, and then of course the how those two plates react to that pressure in terms of their safety factors, your deflection safety factors, first ply failure, ultimate skin failure, core shear failure, and strength and stiffness data. So that, and again, just like with everything else, you can export this to a PDF, Excel, TIFF, Word file, whatever you wish to look at. And with that, and obviously there are some other report configurations, D&V configuration. This is the high-speed craft rules. This is a little bit more involved, more directed towards the marine industry. Same thing with the ISO 12215. This is the 12215-5, and I believe some of the -6 is evaluated here. And with that, to get it in a little bit deeper, you can go through the Annex H configurations as well. If you really wanted to, and you had all of these populated, and you wanted to look at, maybe if you wanted to look at everything, do we have that set up? No, we don't have it set up yet. Well, one of the things we're working on is to actually have each and every report out in one report if you wanted to have it. Right now it's piecemeal. You do everything by your base reports. In some cases that could be good, and others probably not. It makes a little bit more sense just to do the single reports. And with that, I think we got about probably 5 minutes left, but I think my voice is about shot. But if anyone does have any questions, any comments, anything, you have a particular project that you're working on and you're having some issues with importing materials, or you've got some different configurations that you're looking at, please feel free to email us at webinars@vectorply.com. Both myself and Thomas Williams, who's going to be doing the webinar on Thursday, our contact information is on our website at vectorply.com. Feel free to call us in the office at 334-291-7704, or probably best yet to email us. Please feel free to do so, and we'll do our best to get back to you as quickly as possible. So with that, if anybody again has any questions, please email us, and I appreciate your time. And everyone have a great rest of Tuesday. And with that, that is the end of our webinar. So thank you again for attending.